Welcome to the Random Horror Show. I am your horror podcast hostess, Keisha Lacey, coming straight out of the on Pine Curtain, better known as East Texas, and here at the Random Horror Show, where I film comedy, being silly, random, goofy. You might hear a story or two in horror, science fiction, fantasy, cult classics, and the obscure in movies, television shows, and literature, and sometimes we throw a guest or two. And thank you for joining me. It is a cold, seriously cold day in Texas, especially in East Texas. And also, there has been a winter advisory. Look at me, I'm like the weather lady now. A winter advisory that has been scheduled to be happening around this week. And so y'all be careful out there driving those roads with ice and sleet, rain, remix of whatever, especially in the DFW area. I have family up there, so y'all be careful out there. Horror fans that is like in that area and other parts of like Oklahoma, Kansas, you name it. Please do be careful out there because we don't want your ass to be slipping and sliding and end up in a ditch, and that is a bitch. I just rhymed right there to get your car, and we don't want you to lose your life. I don't want you to lose your life out there. So be out there and be careful, or just stay your ass at home. And this is going to be a bonus episode of the Random Horror Show, as I'm going to be going over Infinity Pool. Infinity Pool came out this month, January 26th, and it is a very unique film written and directed by Brandon Cronenberg. Now, before you deep dive into the waters of like Infinity Pool, I want y'all to like really understand like where Brandon Cronenberg is coming from. Of course, he is the son of David Cronenberg, who gave us nice, gory, delicious like body horror from like The Fly to like Dead Ringers. The best one that like he has did that everybody loves is Scanners. Existence. It sounds like dick pills to me. Existence, extends, whatever how you call that. The one with Jude Law and Jennifer Jason Leigh, excuse me. But the one that I really got acquainted with was Possessor. There are two versions of it. The theatrical version is red. The uncut Possessor is yellow. It's also available on Hulu. Now, I love that story of Tessa, who is an elite assassin, and I love female assassins. I mean, Kill Bill, come on now. There has been lots of movies that has been peppered throughout like the cinematic history of female assassins. I love it. I love female assassins and everything, and I wanted to be an assassin when I was a little girl, but I was like, oh, okay, they have to do a lot of things to like get themselves prepared to become an assassin. I mean, I could, but I was like, I got feelings and emotions. I'm like, whack whack. So, with Brandon, he does pepper a lot of things with metaphors. He's obsessed with mask, and that mask in Possessor is like showing like what he does with the mask, especially with Tessa and the guy that she uses to use his body and his mind to take over him subconsciously to do the assassination. So I feel that like people just need to like understand, because like a lot of times if you go into a movie that is you not very familiar with the director or the work or whatever like that, they might feel a little bit jaded. They might feel confused or whatever. But I feel that like we should familiarize with like a director or something like that. Even if it's upcoming, if it's like, because Brandon is Canadian, we should like, give them a chance and see through their work. But this is just going to be a breakdown of Infinity Pool. So there is going to be some spoilers in this bonus podcast. I know that I said that, like, oh, I'm just taking a break and just going to, like, for season 6 of the Random Horror Show in June, but I was just like, you know what, it's just something compelled me to, like, do a breakdown on Infinity Pool. Now, if you have followed me on my Instagram, which is the Random Horror Show, there is a 16-minute clip of me talking about Infinity Pool. And of course, I have to be a little silly with it and everything. You can hear my son like, they're not on. You have to wait. I'm like, they can. I'm like, I'm just going. But let's go right ahead and do like a deep dive of Infinity Pool. Infinity Pool stars Mia Goth, the it girl of horror, Bit Pearl, Suspiria, X, you name it. She brings a very uniqueness to this film. You have Alexander Skarsgård, who he literally was so fucking amazing in The Northman. I just never understood why there was just so much of a low attendance in the theaters about The Northman, because I feel that it was just really like a chef's kiss. His performance was just astronomically amazing. Of course, Nicole Kidman's in this. Willem Dafoe. Yeah, but if you will listen to my last podcast episode of Horror 2023, as I talked about, the movies that I'm going to watch, you can hear those tidbits also. And then there's like some other actors I really didn't pay attention to, but Cleopatra Coleman, she reminds me of a Zoe Kravitz. Like, if they have such similar features, um, I was just like, okay, interesting. So, she plays M, and what it breaks down as James, the character, and his wife M, they are at a resort. Now, this resort right here is in a very worn, war torn, just a lot of chaotic country, like a third world country and stuff. And I don't like using third world, because a lot of times uh people who think, I'm not trying to think like super American or whatever like that, but like we always think like, oh, third world, they're poor, oh my God, da 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 da, like that. But in this particular, it's a fictitious country. They solely depend on tourism, and there's many countries that depend on tourism, like Jamaica, Dominican Republic, if it, and then I would say to myself, if you question yourself critically, if they're so, say these, countries like we like talk about, like Cambodia and all those places like that, or whatever, you think of their third world, then why are people still living there? And it's not because, oh, I can't get out, because there's people that actually do come to the US or the UK or Canada, or, or whatever country that they choose to be at. But, we're going to have to like kind of chill out on that third world stuff, just because they don't have like the necessities like us. I mean, they still have clean running water and everything else. They still have a city, they still have a currency, etc., etc. They might have like a not a great like employment there, a lot of times it could be people that's unemployed, but still you still have an economy there. I mean, they still have a government. So just to say, we have to like really be very cautious whenever we call some country that is not like America or like Canada or UK and everything third world, because it can be a different point of view with them as well, because they live there. We just looking from the outside, looking from the outside. But in this fictitious country, they do have rebellion. They have very strict religious laws. They have very strict laws about everything, because especially with tourism, especially with foreigners and everything. If y'all have been listening to the news or read any news, articles or whatever, there was a couple of Americans that have done some really crazy stuff. Especially with a young guy that went to Singapore who chewed gum or like spit on the sidewalk. And Singapore is very, very stringent and very strict of people of not spitting, chewing gum, and things like that, because they just don't want gross bacteria. They don't want their streets to be nasty. And I feel that is like really a great thing for them not to like have people spitting on the sidewalk, because that's just gross and yucky. I don't like to hear people harking and spitting, because I have a really bad gag reflex when I hear somebody spitting. And so this young man did that. I think there was like another one where one of them like stole a car or something like that. But the young man, I believe it's a car, or he spit it or something like that. It's somewhere in there. Um, don't quote me on that, but he did something in Singapore and they caned his ass. And of course, like the US Embassy was like, he did break the law over here and he has to be punished by their laws. And so, I mean, if you're going to go in somebody's country, like their neighborhood or how their household or how they run it, abide by their rules. That's the reason why they always put up, the travel notice and everything whenever you're going to visit a different country, because you want to like understand their laws, because their laws can be completely different from your laws of where you live. So have some respect with that shit. And he did get caned. I was just like, well, you fucked up, and that's just how I look at it. And if I went to another country, because I do have a passport, I'm going to look up their laws. I'm going to make sure that I comply with them so I can have a really safe, fun, and exciting, fascinating trip of learning their culture and everything else, and come back home safely, because I want to have a good experience with that. So within this fictitious country that they're in, um, you will see their prison wires around the resort um, in a couple of scenes, because we know that, okay, this is not a very safe country, but they also put those wires and they have heavily guarded guards to like for the entrance whenever the tourist goes out, because really they're supposed to stay in that vicinity of the tourist, resort. There was also in the beginning of where Mia's character meets James. Now, James is like a total fucking loser. He is a failed writer. He wrote this book. And on the beach scene where he is looking at a guy that was on a four-wheeler, he is just making donuts, he's scaring off the tourists. The tourists are like really like scared, like what is going on. You see soldiers coming out, the police and everything, because this guy is just really wrecking the beach. And she lets James know that these people are here in their country. It's like a revolution. They're rebellious people making a statement. You could tell like the people there that live in that country are not very fond of tourists to come in their country, and they're poor, and they have money, and they're having like the time of their lives and stuff, while they're looking from the outside in, and like, well, why they have these luxuries and we have this right here. So she lets him know what's really going on. And there was one thing that she did, is that she touched James on his throat. So she gave like this very demure, like very flirty touch on his throat, and I was just like, girl, she's got like those flirting skills like I do, because I do that too. But I don't touch people's throats. I just touch them, like, hey, like that, like that. So that was like the beginning of like James noticing her And in a way, he was like, it sparks that thought in his mind of like, well, she kind of finds me attractive. And he also wrote a book. And the book has been out for 6 years, and she's just going on about his book. And before she met him, there was a scene where they are eating with his wife. Now, there are masks that is popped up in the beginning of the movie of where the workers there at the resort told them the history of their country, their culture, and they wear these masks because the rainy season is coming. So they're going to celebrate, through the rest of the week before they close down for the rain season. So, like I said, masks are very important with Brandon Cronenberg of like hiding that real you, behind a mask. And the masks are very gruesome. They're not really too gruesome, but they do kind of remind you of like a couple of movies where you will have like people that are taunting, and it's the one with Liv Tyler in it. I believe it's The Strangers, and it has Scott Speedman in it. He was in Underworld with Kate Beckinsale, and you will always see that somebody always puts on a mask. So you see the mask, and they also do this little ritual where they take like some red, clay paint or something, and they put these two stripes on their side of their cheek. And that's like part of their culture and their tradition. But at the dinner table, which actually the breakfast table that we're having breakfast, you will meet she's very meek. You can tell there's like a lot of distance in their marriage. M is the daughter of a wealthy publisher that her father, as she said, is a monster. And you could tell that he actually kind of controls M in some type of way. But, she's like, I have my independence or whatever from him because he is just a monster of a person. So you can see like the distance between James and M while they were eating at the resort during their breakfast. And she's like, hey, let's go to a Chinese restaurant. So he was just like, why would they have a Chinese restaurant here? And knowing it's not, that's a little odd for him. Now, to point out why James said that is because he is pretty much pretending to be pretentious. Now, anywhere that you go, it does not matter. You will always have some kind of Japanese or Chinese restaurant. It doesn't matter if that is a resort or wherever you're traveling to. They're always going to have a different, variety of food from what they serve. And so he feels that, well, there's no Chinese people here, so why would they have that? That's the pretentiousness that James was like throwing off. And it's very like a backhanded, kind of shade towards the people of the country at this resort that he was spending this vacation time with his almost estranged wife. She's also younger than him. She's also the one that has the money. Now, James is a little bit older, so it plays up that dynamic where you have the younger woman and the older man that has the money. So the role has switched where she's the younger woman that has money. She is born into wealth, even though she has not, it's passed down from her, from her father and their publishing company, and he's the poor one. So it's like the poor, older man, which, is kind of like he's like a hobosexual because to describe during a dinner scene with Mia and her husband, she breaks out to say that the way how they got together and they've been married for 10 years is that he was the poor and broke writer, and her father warned her, don't marry a poor and broke writer because really they don't even make money. And of course, she says, he was the first one to spill coffee on me, and that's how it was. It doesn't even sound very exciting because the way how she put it, it's more of like, yeah, I'm kind of feel like I'm regretting my decision of marrying him, and though he has not produced a book within 6 years, it's just like he's just riding, he just ride me for my fucking money. So you see that like really interesting dynamic of where you will see like the older man, the wealthy older man with the money and the young hot girl. But this is more of like the older broke man that married into money, and the girl has the money. Her family does. But which, by the way, is words of wisdom from her father, because guess what? When you are a man that ain't got shit in a pot to piss in, a window to throw it out, you just giving like, just, I'm gonna say it like this. I watched Sin. She said dust and dick. If you just giving dust and dick, that's the reason why M has that going on. And like, I swear on Crip, like, ladies, listen to your fathers. I mean, even an uncle or whatever. It's not cool to, it really is. It really does change the dynamic and stuff. It really does. I'm just trying to tell you. And there's some women that are very fine, and there's nothing wrong with you having making more money than your husband or your partner. But just as long as y'all have like that compatibility, that partnership, y'all pretty much on the same level. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just as long as y'all be on the same level with things. But yeah, I kind of felt that was like a little bit like, whoa, that's a little bit too much to be opening up to like a couple that you just met. So they got on the dance floor. We see Mia just rocking it with this little sexy, seductive dance. You also see James is being entranced. He is like, subdued, by her charm, her voice, and everything else. Because guess the reason why is because she stroked James' ego. Now his wife didn't stroke his ego. She probably did to like get him to be inspired, and that was the whole point of him coming there, is to get some inspiration for his next book. So she was just like, he was just really tantalized and entranced by Mia Goth's character. He also is fantasizing while they were dancing, is that like, wow, wouldn't it be great to like get something going with her? Because in his mind he was like, my young wife doesn't pay attention to me, I have this woman, she read my book, she just stroked my ego, and I'm very interested in her. Why not? We're on vacation. So later on, throughout the movie, that the couple gets a car. We can tell that they can't really technically leave like that. They gotta have some kind of chaperone or something from the country, because of the country being very dangerous. But they rent a car out, and it's an American car. It looks like a LTD or something like that. It's pretty cool, because it kind of reminds me of when my mom went to Mexico, and she said it is nothing but cars from the 50s and the 60s. When she went to my stepdad's hometown, somewhere, it's like a little town in Nuevo Leon, Mexico. But she really loved it, you know what I'm saying? But she's like, dude, the cars down there are like super old, back in the 50s, running and stuff. And she thought that was like the neatest thing ever. So they went out to somewhere out there. It's kind of like on the country, but kind of like a little bit more like on the beachy side. And they have like a nice picnic lunch. There's a lot of wine. There's a lot of banter and everything else. Well, James goes and used the restroom. This is a scene I actually like fell out laughing on. And I feel this is like one of those like shock value moments and stuff from Brandon. But then if you understand about hedonism and things like that, if you've watched Exit to Eden with Rosie O'Donnell, which, by the way, is a novel that is based by Anne Rice. She wrote it under Anne Rocklemore. Exit to Eden, they did it. I like Exit to Eden movie. I really did. Especially with the transformation of Rosie O'Donnell, where she said she's like, oh, she was like 200 some pounds and she came out. She was like 181 and she had to wear the whip and the corset and everything else. Um, Amon is in there. David Bowie's, the late David Bowie's wife is in there. Amon, she's in that movie. I like Exit to Eden. It may not be like the most like award-winning movie, but it was funny and entertaining to me. And Mia comes up and she is literally just whacking. I mean, she is beating James's meat. And I like sit there and died laughing in the movie theater because I was just sitting there. I was like, oh, she's just doing that one stroke shit. I was like, yo, girl, you need to give more than that one stroke shit right there. But she was giving him a hand job. And I was just sitting there like, that is the most basicest ass hand job I've ever seen. Like, girl, put some wrist into it. Put some motion in it. Like, make that shit swirl and everything. I was like, shit. And you just dry-handed that? I'm like, you could have gave him, like, hand burns or, like, a rug burn or something on his dick or something like that. I'm like, oh, my gosh. But, that's for the movie and stuff. And, of course, he drops his man gravy on the ground. And I was just like, oh, my God. And I just bust out with this in the theater. And I was like, damn, it's been that long. So that M and James are not having sex. M is very beautiful. She's cute. She has a nice petite body. And she seems to like comply with everything what James says. But that department was not going on. It wasn't happening, Captain. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, judging from that spunk he did, that jizz that just plop plop on the ground, I was like, well, that's super thick right there. He is not getting any. And of course, I was thinking to myself, I love Alexander Skarsgård. He is so gorgeous to me. And I was like, if that was me doing that to him, I was like, that son of a bitch would have blacked out and been on the ground with that nut on his shirt. You know what I'm saying? He would have, and those noises he made, oh my God, I couldn't do nothing but laugh. But she sees that, like, I mean, she really did see that this was actually going on. She's like been studying James and M, especially like at the restaurant where they were eating, especially during their dance sesh, afterwards, because this is all in a big, humongous plan for James and everything. So they make it back to the car. They were super drunk. Her husband was like, I can't drive. And James is like, I'll do it, So he's driving, and there was something wrong with the lights. There was an issue with the lights. It kept flickering off and on. Well, he hits a native of that country and kills him. Vehicular manslaughter. So when they get back to the hotel, the resort, they were questioned, thinking, okay, since y'all are outside the gates after dark, I don't know, we can let you in. But they showed their key passes to let them know, like, hey, we staying here, we're legit. So they let them in. They were also questioned at the police station. So in this police station, we could see like how the police station or the center, what they hold them in, is very different. The paint's peeling. I mean, this is just a very run down, station. And you just see like how, poor this country is, especially with their law enforcement and everything else what's going on. So they make a deal for him he is going to get executed, but they also make a deal of saying, hey, we have things that you rich ass people have. Y'all have money. Y'all keep us going in this country, okay? But instead of doing a real ass execution of you, then we're going to make like a doppelganger of you. So James agreed to this, And of course, M agreed to it because she was put in another room. And so he puts on the surgical gown. They lead him down to this place, and the magic happens. And so whenever he is made, he sees himself, him and M, they walk in there and they see his body, his doppelganger, everything from his memories, you name it, you name it. And it scares the living shit out of M. um to James's curiosity, he was frightened to see himself, but he was just like, this is very interesting. So he just like kept that under his hat, but he had other plans and everything what he made his mind to. Now he's feeling like, yo, this is the inspiration that I have been really waiting for. So this is going to be fun. So he sees himself getting executed by the guy who got murdered by his son. And he is dead ass loving it because he's now saying, I'm not really dead, but that's dead. And he got a very, just a sick, delicious pleasure of seeing himself die because he's like, I know this is me. That is my doppelganger. And you know what? I can be invincible with this shit. Now I can really do some fucked up things, and I get made again, pay them their money, and it's gonna be like the best vacation ever. This is what he has in his mind. But M is scared shitless. She is like, let's go. He makes up this lie saying that like he couldn't find his passport. He actually hid his passport because now he sees himself dying, though it was his doppelganger who have all of his memories and everything else. He's like, I can get away with some real deal shit. So she leaves in a quick and hurry like that. And now you have the rest of the gang, which they have invited him. They just letting him know, like, hey, we did some bullshit too. And, we paid them their money and we got ourselves like executed and etc. etc. We give like them the person, of something fucked up that we did, the show, but really we're here. This is like the best thing that they're like, we're just so fucking careless. Now this is where you get into the part of like everybody doing some real hood ass shit. They just doing hood ass shit. They're paying money to make these doppelgangers, watching themselves die, having a good laugh at it, because now it's just showing like how pretentious these people are. And it's like, wow, they really just don't give a fuck because they like, now it's not our lives, it's just a part of like what they see is that, them getting executed, etc., etc., and we're still gonna be living on. Now James is like loving this shit, and he still has somewhat of a conscience and everything. He's getting into it. He's like, he made these choices of his own to stay in that country and keep up with the cool kids, and that's what he's doing because technically he's a loser. So he's like, I'm gonna hang out with the cool kids, fuck my wife, she's gone, I don't give a shit. I'm gonna like have like sex with like old girl, and nobody won't know, not even my wife. What I'm saying? It's like what goes around in Vegas stays in Vegas type of thing right there. But we just doing really crazy hood rat shit. Now the second and the third acts. The second act was not too bad. It could bring up a little bit of a punch with the second act, and that's something that I just wasn't like too big on, but it still had like some really great moments. Now the third act of the movie, I really did like, especially when Mia was on the card. Now the reason why she was on the card taunting James is James actually had enough. I mean, they were really fucking with him. He couldn't hang with the cool kids. And so he made a mad dash to get on the bus to go to the airport. Now he was just like, okay, I done made it. Whoo! And guess what? They came in two cars and they stopped the bus. Um, she was shooting up the damn tires and shit. She shot the damn window, and it was like, God dang. You know what I'm saying? They was taking it to the they was taking it beyond the universe with this because they were still messing with James. He got out of the car, uh, and that was so funny because Mia Goth was so hilarious. She was on the hood of the car. Her husband is driving, and she had this bucket of chicken right beside her. And I looked, I was like, is that a bucket of chicken right beside her? I mean, she's like laying on the hood, like just all goddess like, while the car is just driving very slowly. James is just walking. She had a bottle of wine. She was half-assed drunk. And she had a gun. You know, she was just taunting James. I mean, she was literally just in and up under his skin. And it was, to me, that was the funniest, most fucked up scene ever. I mean, think about it. You hanging around these people, you're figuring out and all this crazy ass stuff. They're Mighty Morphin, like, Mystique, doppelganger ass shit with you, and you're getting executed, some bullshit that y'all been doing, some little hood rat shit, talking about us smoke cigarettes and everything else. And now you're feeling guilty and you have a conscience now, and you can't take that anymore, and they are bullying you, they are taunting you. Oh my god, I sit there and fell out laughing because it was just so fucking funny to me. And he runs off the road, they shoot him, he ends up in a one of the villagers homes. He's bleeding, and he has like a very hallucinogenic dream, like you're tripping on shrooms and shit like that. It's kind of like that and everything when he has this dream. But he sees his wife, and he was just like, what the hell is going on? Of course, you see the mask and everything. They're wearing masks. Now he came out of the house. They're all around, like in a very, you know, fashion of like, we have these headlights on, we in the dark, we got you surrounded, man. This is going to be your last time because we're going to try to initiate you. Or like, it's like, are you really one of us, or are you not? Are you with us or not? So when they said the dog, and they brought out a doppelganger just exactly like James. And this like really messed up James, because there's another scene that messed up James really bad. This one, he is butt naked and he is a dog with a leash and everything. And that fucked James up. She was still taunting him and teasing him and just really pushing James like out of his comfort zone and into this abyss of just debauchery and decadence and this torture and horrors of like how they really are, and like just everything just crazy with it. And James does something to his doppelganger. She comes over and she pulls her breast out, like breastfeeding him. I know. I feel that was the one that they said that was that they cut out of the theatrical release, but it's probably like the one that they said they're gonna take out. But I may be wrong. But she does pulls her titty out, and he sits there and suckle on it. Oh well. So they make it back, and they're boom at the airport, and it's like nothing never did happen. They're all giving each other hugs, and just sitting there and just talking like it's regular, like they just had a very regular vacation, and everything is just normal. Except for James. Everybody has left except for James, and at the end, James goes back to the resort, and the rain season has came, and he is sitting in a chair in the rain. So Infinity Pool does have its mistakes. Um, it does have like where you kind of get a little bit irritated in the second act. Now, the third act, I feel that it did serve a purpose. Now, it is 2 hours and 23 minutes long. That is way too long. I wish they would have scaled it back at least like an hour and, just an hour and 40 something minutes, or maybe just 2 hours tops. But I feel that they could have scaled the pacing of it back. Also the duration of the film. Um, Amazing job by Alexander Skarsgård as he portrays a loser. And I'm just saying, from all the films that we have seen him, he always like kills it. But he really kills it because it's a very opposite of all the characters that he has played in the past. Mia Goth is very different in this movie because she plays with you psychologically, especially with James. She has this voice that just cuts up to like, I mean, very high pitch. um I can see why she embodied this character, because for in her to like play this character, I mean, she really had to like be a little bit overzealous with it, because she was the one that was actually initiated a lot of things with James from the time that she met James on the beach when they were seeing the guy wrecking the beach and terrorizing and scaring the tourists, to her at the dinner, her dancing with him. She was the one that has to be the hook, line, and sinker for James to literally come into that world. The guy who played her husband, oh my god, he is so cute. Oh my gosh, he is such a cutie right there. I don't know his name, but he's freaking cute. Um, it was just like, it was, of course, there's like nudity in it. There is some very strong sexual themes with it. I feel that like it is a B minus, and I could have gave it like a C minus and stuff if I really, 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 really like judged this shit really like on the hardest. But I feel like it's a B minus because like it was the acting that saved it. Also the storyline with this, by the way, Alexander Skarsgård actually is one of the producers of this film, so I love that. The scenery of where they filmed it, it was very beautiful. I do like how they played up of like people that are rich and wealthy, that they feel just like anything that they do is just, we're beneath them. They have like, well, I have money, and if I get in trouble, I'll give you money, just cover it up. It has that feel with that because, there are people that do go on vacations. It doesn't matter if it's like at a country, it doesn't matter where. And if they get in trouble, guess what? They throw their money at them like, hey, I have this money and we can keep it a secret because I don't want this to get out. I'm an important person. This could destroy my family, or this can destroy my image. Things like that. This is like showing the pretentiousness of like wealthy people. And then where you throw James in the mix, who isn't wealthy, but he married into wealth. He thinks that he does have that shit on lock, but he actually does not have it on lock, because they are basically telling him like, look, dude, you're not with us. You're not on our league. You're not on our level. And so that's the reason why there was the ending like that. When James went back and everybody else went back to normal, like nothing didn't happen, but it was still messing with him because they were letting him know, like, yo, you regular ass peoples. We can go on our lives. We can not talk about it. It would not bother us at nothing. Nothing would not bother us of what we do and did and how we got away with it. But you can't handle it. And he actually bit off more than he can chew. With these characters and also what happens during this inspirational time, for his next book. So he basically just fucked himself out. He really did. James basically fucked himself off in this film. Now, there is a metaphor within why is it called Infinity Pool, and I'm not going to tell you about that, but there is a backstory of why this film is called Infinity Pool and why these certain characters are the ones that kind of actually um, started. It's not really started, but actually an explanation of why. So I like that. If and if anybody that watched it or whatever and you didn't understand that, I mean, if it comes on Blu-ray, DVD, all of that streaming and stuff like that, you can just rewatch it and like, just catch that, because I caught that when I that's my first time, catching that, me being in the theater with watching Infinity Pool. I caught that. I was like, "Oh, okay then." But the imagery is very it plays a lot of like into the color scheme of like the country, how it is, and then also how they look, especially in the Chinese restaurant slash nightclub scene. There's also a scene of where it goes into some real deal craziness and everything of how the colors play up. Like, he's really big on colors. Brandon is very, very huge on colors, just to paint that picture of what's going on, especially when Alexander Skarsgård, who plays James, when he goes inside the room to get his doppelganger made. So that is it for me right there. And thank you for joining me for this bonus episode of Infinity Pool as I break some of the story down and some of the concepts of it. Like I said, there's metaphors, there's some foreshadowing, things like that. But actually, it's more of somebody that's just not on a damn level is trying to play with the big dogs, and it actually breaks him. So if y'all want to go ahead and follow me, I'm on Instagram on The Random Horror Show. You can email me at therandomhorrorshow@gmail if you want me to review a movie for you for the upcoming season in June. Or you can find me on Facebook at The Random Horror Show. So, no further ado, I shall be chilling, and I'm going to be drinking some decadent wine from Italy tonight and having nice delicious hors d'oeuvres. This guy has came all the way from Italy all the way to Texas for all of us to sample his fine wine. So I'm going to be a little bit ha 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 as my bouginess is, because I am bougie like that, and I'm going to have a great time, even though I'm going to be careful out in this weather. Until further ado, y'all can catch me on IG Lives. Just make sure that you stay tuned in. And I'm going to be doing movies that I'm going to be spending my damn money on. This is the most I have spent my money on. I'm going to the fucking movies. I'm watching horror of 2023. So the next movie is next month. I'm going to be watching Cocaine Bear. Watch out for some posts on horror and black during Black History Month and everything, with horror with black folks in it, especially during the blaxploitation. There's a lot of horror movies that was made on the blaxploitation cinematic history era. So y'all watch out for those posts next month for Black History in Horror. So, no further ado, I am Keisha Lacey, and thank you for joining me with the Random Horror Show with our bonus episode breakdown of Infinity Pool.